I take great pleasure in introducing Mr. Stuart Richard Young to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, former Attorney General, Ms. Bridget Anisette George. Take the opportunity to express my privilege to sit here on stage with the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. I'm no longer calling him the leader of the opposition because the time is near. And to Mr. Roger Gopal, who I've come to know in the last few weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, persons and citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and importantly, the right-thinking citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who are both here, present with us, and listening to us and following us via technology tonight. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the privilege to address you very briefly once again. My role is a simple one here tonight, is to tell you the personal reasons why I'm sitting here and why I agreed to accept the challenge given to me by Dr. Rowley and the People's National Movement and put myself up as a candidate in the upcoming general elections. Roger made it easy for me. He is introduced to you all via statistics, the crisis that this country is in. I just want to add a few neon light highlighted topics. You have Section 34. You have the life sport program that we know is over $400 million. You have NGC, which is one of the cash generating assets of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not a party asset. This is a cash asset of Trinidad and Tobago. And we've seen their corporate spending increase from $67 million to over $200 million annually. And the response of the government to this and to Prison Gate and to every issue that the opposition has raised is to sweep it under the carpet. And what has depressed me in the past few weeks is how numb Trinidad and Tobago has become. Because I don't want to believe for a moment, citizens, that we have become accepting of all of these scandals and the many more. The NGC scandal, what do they tell us? They're appointing a three-man board, a Philip Marshall-led board. We have heard nothing. That is months ago. Live sport, we've heard nothing. They will tell us it's police investigation. Well, we all know what happens with police investigations in Trinidad and Tobago from a recent incident that was highlighted by the former minister, one of the former ministers of national security, about the find of a substance at the Prime Minister's residence. We found out that the security detail at the Prime Minister's residence either had their vacation bought out or some of them were given HDC houses. And I looked. That is only 2 weeks ago this news came to us citizens. And I looked on, and I did not hear a murmur from the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago. So I am giving us the benefit of the doubt that we have become so numb because we have been abused by unprecedented levels in the last 5 years. Like Roger, I have very young children. Like you all sitting there and you all listening on the radio and on the internet, you all have young children and grandchildren. They are the reason that we must stand up now. And I use the word we, because all of us here have a certain level of privilege. All of us here are able to get up on a morning and know what our meal is going to be. We know that we have a roof over our heads. One of the things I've experienced walking in the constituency since October last year is seeing how unfortunate some of the circumstances that some of our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago live in. And I think we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars, and where has the money gone? Why do people have to continue to live this way? And there is such a high level of corruption, even the business community has come to accept. They've stopped complaining about the foreign exchange situation. We have never had a proper explanation by the governor of the central bank as to why he single-handedly, on the cover of night, in April of last year, decided to change how he distributed the foreign exchange system. Prior to that, we had a foreign exchange distribution system that was working. And it is only when we called him out and we took him to task, and I remember sitting in the Senate in June of last year, looking at the Minister of Finance, Mr. Larry Hawaii, and telling him, it had just crossed midnight, and we were debating something, and telling him, do you know that the governor changed once again the foreign exchange policy last night? And he did not even know that. and I look at how quiet we have become as a people. I have marched with the unions. I have marched with the PNM prior to being a member of the PNM. And I have always taken a stance against areas of corruption and things that I am dissatisfied with. And at personal levels, that is a sacrifice. But unless every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago is prepared to be courageous and prepared to step forward in your own sphere, we all have different roles to play. We all must step forward. It's my respectful view, and I'd like to persuade you all tonight. In your own environment, step forward and start demanding what is right. Step forward and start saying you're no longer going to accept quietly what is corrupt. I have heard in the past few months a lot of talk about a 30 to 20-something% undecided vote. I do not want to believe for a moment that we really have such a large undecided vote in Trinidad and Tobago after what has gone on for the last 5 years. I want to believe that the majority of that are people who continue to maintain a level of secrecy and a level of secrecy as to how they will vote, because we know that one of the other factors and pillars of this government that we currently have in place is their level of vindictiveness and victimization. Throughout my last 5 years of my career, I have had numerous people come to me about being terminated from state enterprises and by the government, and complaining and not wanting to come forward because of a genuine fear. I myself have been the personal victim of victimization from this government and from the former Attorney General, which must have been condoned by members of the cabinet. And I am not going to shy away, and I call on each one of you all to stand up and do what is right, because the only way we can rescue Trinidad and Tobago people is every right-thinking citizen of Trinidad and Tobago has to stand up and take up your mantle of responsibility in whatever sphere that you walk. We must step forward now and prepare yourselves for September 7th, and prepare yourselves to return Trinidad and Tobago to a level of decency and a level of economic stability. You will hear from us as we begin to roll out in a more rapid format the policies. As Dr. Rowley has said repeatedly over the past few months, since being in opposition for the last 5 years, he has worked tirelessly with his team, and we have invited persons who are not members of the PNM, who are recognized as leaders in their own spheres of economics, law, healthcare, education, infrastructure, to join with us in updating the policies that are needed and the plans that are needed to roll out when we form the new government of Trinidad and Tobago, a PNM-led government, on September 8th, 2015. We are ready for each ministry that Dr. Rowley will put forward. There is a plan. I assure you, we have plans and we have policies, and you will begin to hear more of it as we go along deeper into the election campaign. I would also like to just 2 quick messages to you all. I take great pride in sitting next to Dr. Rowley and the other members and the other candidates every time I'm asked to speak. And that is because we operate properly. We operate with a very, very different philosophy. I've sat with my family and listened to personal attacks on Dr. Rowley, the other candidates, and myself by the Prime Minister and her cabinet ministers. As individuals, it's not easy to sit down there and hear absolute lies about yourself and your members of your family. And you will never hear that from the PNM. We have information that you all would not believe about the current government, and you will never hear us mudslinging and throwing that around. We operate with a different standard and a different level of maturity, and that is one of the key critical factors that we will bring back to Trinidad and Tobago. One of the things I'd like to end by asking you, the citizenry and the right-thinking people, is put the pressure on the politicians, put the pressure on the media going forward to say you are interested in hearing about issues and live issues. What is going to be done to rescue Trinidad and Tobago and return it to economic and social stability? What is going to be done when we have serious economic concerns on the horizon? That is what we need to be demanding that we hear. and not the type of mudslinging, nasty, vile attacks that they've concentrated on our political leader, Dr. Rowley, and some of the rest of us. That is unacceptable, people. And if the media is told by the right-thinking citizens it's unacceptable, we must force change. The only way we become a developed nation that we like to talk about, the only way we become the next Singapore or the Singapore of this side of the hemisphere or the leader of this side of the hemisphere is by pushing the envelope. And that is something for the last 16 years of my career I'm proud to say I've done. And that is something I know every right-thinking citizen is capable of doing. And you're capable of doing it in your own way. And it's simple, as Roger talked about a short while ago, decency. Let us return Trinidad and Tobago to decency, internationally, regionally, and also in our neighborhoods and our environments. Let people of Trinidad and Tobago and those outside be proud of us once again. It is time, my friends, it is time, my fellow citizens, that you stand up and demand what is right. Stand up and demand that the foolishness end, and be prepared. I beg of you, I urge of you, as you go home tonight and you kiss your children goodnight, and you kiss your grandchildren tonight, and as you greet your children and grandchildren in the upcoming weeks, think about their futures and be honest with yourselves. The only option for Trinidad and Tobago come September 7th is to return it to a level of decency and stability. And that is what the PNM is going to bring to you. That is an assurance. So, my friends, fellow citizens, I thank you all very much for the time that you've given me here this evening. I was told I had to keep it short. And I hope I've been able to deliver the message. And I hope that you, like me, feel a deep desire and a deep need and a deep sense of urgency to do what is right, not only for yourselves, your children, your grandchildren, but for the future generations of Trinidad and Tobago. And come September 7th, let that undecided category of people, who I believe has already decided, do what is right and return Trinidad and Tobago to stable grounds. I thank you all very much for your time this evening.